Look around you. Look at the modern world we have built. We live in an era that worships exhaustion. From the moment we wake up, we are bombarded with the gospel of hustle culture. We are told that we must grind, that we must fight for every inch of our success, that we must conquer our goals, conquer our mornings, and conquer our minds. We treat life as if it were an endless, brutal battlefield. If you are not sweating, if you are not stressed, if you are not constantly pushing a heavy boulder up a steep hill, society tells you that you are failing. We have equated suffering with virtue. But what is the actual result of this global obsession with extreme effort? We are the most medicated, anxious, burnt out, and depressed generation in human history. We are running faster and faster on a treadmill that never stops, terrified that if we pause for a single second, everything we have built will collapse. We are trying so incredibly hard, yet true peace, lasting happiness, and deep fulfillment seem to be slipping further and further away. But what if the entire foundation of our approach is wrong? What if the universe does not reward frantic, desperate struggle? What if the very act of trying too hard is the exact mechanism that is keeping you stuck? Imagine a swimmer caught in a deadly rip current in the ocean. The natural, panicked human instinct is to swim as hard as possible directly against the current, straight toward the shore. The swimmer fights the water, expending massive amounts of energy, thrashing violently. But the ocean is infinitely stronger than human muscle. The more the swimmer fights the current, the faster they exhaust themselves. And ultimately, this frantic effort leads to drowning. The survival manual for a rip current dictates something that feels entirely counterintuitive. It tells you to stop fighting, it tells you to swim parallel to the shore or simply float and let the current carry you until its energy dissipates. You survive not by conquering the ocean, but by aligning your actions with its immense natural flow. You survive by yielding. Over 2.5 millennia ago, an ancient Chinese philosopher named Lao Tzu observed this exact paradox. He looked at the natural world and realized that nature never rushes, nature never stresses, nature never forces an outcome. Yet absolutely everything is accomplished. Trees do not scream and strain to grow leaves. They simply allow the seasons to pass through them. The planets do not suffer anxiety as they maintain their orbits. Lao Tzu compiled his profound observations into a text called the Tao Te Ching, laying the foundation for Taoism. And at the absolute center of this philosophy is a concept so completely alien to the modern Western mind that it almost sounds like a riddle. It is the concept of Wu Wei. Translated literally, Wu Wei means non-doing or action without action. When people first hear the term non-doing, their modern programming instantly misinterprets it. We immediately think of laziness. We picture someone lying on a couch all day, giving up on their dreams, becoming entirely passive and apathetic. But Wu Wei is the exact opposite of laziness. Laziness is an energy of stagnation. It is a resistance to life. Wu Wei is the highest form of dynamic action. It is effortless action. It is action that is completely free from friction, free from the heavy, suffocating weight of the human ego trying to dominate its environment. Think of the difference between a person clumsily forcing a key into a lock that is slightly jammed, twisting and pushing until the metal breaks, versus a master locksmith who subtly wiggles the key, finding the exact point of alignment where the lock clicks open with zero resistance. Both individuals took action, but one used brute force born of frustration, while the other used sensitivity born of awareness. Wu Wei is the art of being the locksmith of your own life. To truly grasp Wu Wei, we have to understand the element that Lao Tzu used as its primary metaphor: water. The Tao Te Ching states that nothing in the world is softer or more yielding than water. Yet for dissolving the hard and inflexible, nothing can surpass it. Look at a river flowing down a mountain. It does not plant its root. It does not aggressively attack the boulders in its path. When it encounters a massive rock, the water does not tense up in frustration. It simply flows around it. It adapts instantly to the shape of its environment. And yet, over thousands of years, that soft, yielding, completely unbothered water will carve the Grand Canyon out of solid stone. Water possesses absolute power precisely because it does not cling to a rigid form. It embodies Wu Wei. It acts by not forcing. We, on the other hand, spend our lives acting like rocks. We create rigid, inflexible plans for exactly how our careers, our relationships, and our lives must look. And when reality inevitably places a boulder in our path, we smash ourselves against it repeatedly, mistaking our bloody forehead for a badge of honor. The psychological mechanics of why forcing things ruins them were brilliantly articulated by the British philosopher Aldous Huxley, and later popularized by Alan Watts. They called it the law of reversed effort. The law dictates that whenever you try to compel yourself to achieve a certain psychological or emotional state, you achieve the exact opposite. The harder you try with the conscious will, the less you succeed. The classic, universal example of this is insomnia. Imagine you are lying in bed. It is 3 in the morning. You have an incredibly important presentation or exam the next day. You know you need sleep. So, what do? You try to sleep. You command your brain to shut down. You aggressively squeeze your eyes shut. You calculate how many hours you have left if you fall asleep right this second. And what happens? You become completely, hopelessly wide awake. The very effort of trying to sleep generates a state of hyperarousal and anxiety that makes sleep biologically impossible. Sleep is a natural state. It is a state of surrender. You cannot conquer sleep. You can only allow it to happen. You have to practice Wu Wei. You have to let go of the desire to sleep. Accept that you are awake, perhaps read a book, and only when you stop trying does sleep silently wash over you. This law of reversed effort governs almost every critical aspect of the human experience. Let us apply it to the realm where it causes the most visible pain: relationships. Have you ever noticed the energetic dynamic when someone is desperately trying to make you like them? When someone is terrified of losing you, they over-communicate. They try to manipulate your perception of them, they seek constant reassurance, and they suffocate the space between you. Their energy is heavy, desperate, and grasping. What is your natural biological reaction to this energy? It is repulsion. You want to pull away. Their intense effort to pull you closer is the exact mechanism that pushes you away. Now, contrast that with the person who is deeply comfortable in their own skin. The person who is engaged and warm, but who does not need your validation to survive. They possess a quiet gravity. They are not forcing a connection. They are simply existing authentically in their own orbit. And naturally, people are magnetically drawn to them. True love and deep connection, much like sleep, cannot be violently extracted from another person. They can only emerge in a space of freedom, in a space of Wu Wei. The same principle applies entirely to our careers and our pursuit of success. In modern society, we are taught to be obsessed with the outcome. We attach our entire self-worth to the promotion, the bank account, the validation of our peers. But this obsession with the end result poisons the process itself. There is an ancient Taoist story about an archer. When the archer is shooting for fun, simply practicing in the woods, his aim is flawless. He is relaxed, his breathing is deep, and he hits the center of the target effortlessly. But when the archer is entered into a competition, and the prize is a heavy piece of gold, everything changes. He becomes obsessed with winning the gold. Suddenly, he is no longer looking at the target. He is looking at the prize. He becomes terrified of missing. His mind races, his hands begin to shake, his shoulders tense up, and he misses the target entirely. The archer's skill has not diminished. What destroyed his aim was the introduction of a desperate, grasping ego. By trying too hard to win, he guaranteed his failure. When we practice Wu Wei in our work, we sever the desperate attachment to the outcome. We shift our entire focus away from the distant, imaginary future and bury ourselves deeply into the present action. You write the book not because you are desperate to be a bestseller, but because the act of writing brings you to life. You build the business not to prove your worth to your parents, but because you are fascinated by the problem you are solving. When you detach your ego from the final result, an incredible biological shift occurs in your brain. The anxiety centers power down. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for creative problem solving, lights up. You enter what modern psychology calls the flow state. The flow state, comprehensively studied by psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, is the exact Western scientific equivalent of Wu Wei. Have you ever been so deeply engaged in an activity, playing an instrument, coding software, painting, or having a profound conversation, that you completely lost track of time? You forgot to eat. The internal voice in your head, the one that constantly judges and criticizes you, suddenly went completely silent. You were no longer thinking about doing the action, you became the action. The dancer becomes the dance. In the flow state, action is utterly effortless. It is highly productive, highly creative, but it carries zero psychological friction. You are operating at peak human performance, yet you feel as though a current is simply carrying you forward. This is the ultimate objective of Wu Wei. It is the realization that your best work, your most brilliant ideas, and your most profound successes will never come from the frantic, stressful grinding of your ego. They will come from the quiet, powerful depths of your flow. But perhaps the most urgent application of Wu Wei is not in our work or our relationships, but within the private battlefield of our own minds. We are at war with our own emotions. When we feel sadness, anxiety, or grief, our modern conditioning tells us that these emotions are enemies that must be destroyed immediately. We try to force ourselves to be happy. We repeat toxic affirmations. We distract ourselves with screens. We numb ourselves with substances, all in a desperate attempt to push the negative emotion away. But the law of reversed effort remains undefeated. The more you violently resist an emotion, the larger and more terrifying it becomes. Carl Jung famously stated that what you resist persists. If you treat your anxiety as a monster that you must fight, you are supplying that monster with the energy of your attention. You are locked in a cage match with your own shadow, and it is a fight you can never win, because your shadow is you. How does a Taoist master handle dark emotions? Through the radical, terrifying act of non-resistance, through Wu Wei. When deep sadness arrives, you do not immediately try to fix it. You do not panic. You treat the emotion like a dark cloud passing through the vast sky of your awareness. You allow it to be there. You sit with the physical sensation in your body without labeling it as bad or wrong. You surrender the need to be happy in that specific moment. And a miraculous thing happens. When an emotion is no longer resisted, when it is no longer fueled by your frantic attempts to destroy it, it naturally begins to lose its charge. It processes itself and moves through you, just as a storm eventually rains itself out and leaves the sky clear. Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. Your mind is the muddy water. The more you stick your hands in it, frantically trying to grab the dirt and throw it out, the muddier and cloudier the water becomes. But if you simply have the courage to stop interfering, to sit still and practice non-doing, the dirt will naturally settle to the bottom, and the water will become crystal clear on its own. Living a life of Wu Wei does not mean you become a passive observer who never takes initiative. It requires a profound, highly sensitive awareness. It means you stop moving through life with the blunt trauma of a battering ram and start moving with the precision of a sailor reading the wind. A sailor does not command the wind. A sailor cannot force the ocean to behave. But by deeply understanding the subtle shifts in the current, by adjusting the sails and working in harmony with nature's immense power, the sailor crosses the ocean effortlessly. You must become the sailor of your own destiny. You must learn to recognize when the universe is giving you a red light. When you are forcing a project that keeps failing, when you are chasing a relationship that brings you nothing but pain, when you are burning out your nervous system for a goal that no longer feels authentic, you must have the wisdom to stop. You must have the courage to step back, release your rigid grip on the steering wheel, and ask yourself, what is the natural flow of this situation? Where is the path of least resistance? The transition from a life of frantic force to a life of Wu Wei is the ultimate evolution of human consciousness. It is the moment you realize that the universe is not a hostile environment you need to conquer, but a deeply intelligent system that you are an integral part of. You are not a stranger here, fighting against the cosmos. You are a manifestation of it, just like the ocean wave is a manifestation of the sea. When you stop fighting your own nature, when you drop the heavy armor of the ego and surrender the illusion of absolute control, you do not become weak. You become dangerous in the best possible way. You tap into an infinite reservoir of energy that was previously being wasted on internal conflict and unnecessary stress. Your life is not meant to be an endless, agonizing struggle. The tension in your jaw, the weight in your chest, the constant buzzing anxiety that tells you you're never doing enough, these are not badges of honor. They are alarm bells. They are signals from your deepest self begging you to put down the sword and step off the battlefield. The ancient secret has been hiding in plain sight for thousands of years, written in the flow of the rivers, the quiet growth of the forests, and the silent orbits of the stars. You are allowed to let go. You are allowed to stop forcing the pieces to fit. Allow the muddy waters of your mind to settle. Stop trying to control the uncontrollable. Breathe into the present moment. Align with the natural rhythm of your life. And watch in absolute awe as the universe begins to effortlessly open doors that you spent years violently trying to break down. Stop trying so hard and let the magic of Wu Wei carry you home for an easy life.